All right. Good morning. So we're going to go ahead and start this morning with your Pilates ball, and we're going to be placing that behind your lower back. So you'll go ahead and lay yourself down and then lift those hips and place the ball underneath your tailbone. So that's where we're going to start. We'll start to land in this space. As soon as we lift those hips higher than the heart, we're already coming into a parasympathetic state. So we can layer onto this by adding in our breath. So go ahead and maybe even close your eyes or take a gentle gaze on the ceiling and start to really focus in on your breath. So if it's possible, you're breathing in and out of the nose. And as deeply as you can into your belly, into the ribs, up into the chest. If you want a little indication if you're breathing deeply, maybe you place your hand or hands on your belly. And see if you can breathe into the space where you have your hand or hands. And then it's a very slow exhale. And then even layering onto that, placing the tongue on the roof of the mouth behind those front teeth gently, just kind of sectioning the tongue to the roof of the mouth. It's not aggressive. It's just a gentle lift of the tongue towards the roof of the mouth. And that's going to create more space for you to breathe. If you're just joining us, the ball is underneath the tailbone, Pilates ball. We're focusing in on the breathing in and out of the nose. Tongue is placed behind those front teeth, tongue on the roof of the mouth. Deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing all the way into the lower belly. We'll take 5 more of those breaths. You'd like to layer on one more level of relaxation, pausing at the top of the breath. Just for a moment or two, and then slow exhale and pause at empty. 4 more, just like that. Again, you could pause at the top and slowly exhale and pause at the bottom, just like that. A couple more. One more, just like that. And then pressing into the feet, gently lifting your hips up and off of the ball. Put the ball to the side. With your knees still bent, separate your feet as wide as your mat and let your knees windshield wiper to the right and to the left. And eventually you'll roll to one side so that you can sit up and find 2 of your yoga tune-up balls or whatever you're using like yoga tune-up balls. And then you'll be placing one on each glute. So eventually you'll lay down And you'll place one on each glute, right in the big fleshy part of your glute. And then you'll bring those soles of your feet together and let your knees come out wide. So it's like a butterfly. If you need support, you could place blocks underneath your hips. So if your hips don't like this much of an opening right off the bat, don't be afraid to place some blocks underneath your thighs or knees for support. So at first, we're just going to let gravity do the work for us here. Take about 5 breaths. You can add the pause at the top or not. It's your choice, but deep, deep breathing. A lot of our focus today is going to be on the bladder meridian line and the fascia and the muscles associated with this energetic line. A lot of that is on the back side of the body. So now we're going to do a contract and release. So what you'll do is squeeze your glute tight, contract, contract, take a breath in, and then exhale and completely relax. Let your glute just soften. We'll do that 2 more times. So contract those glutes, tighten, tighten, squeeze, take a breath in, and soften, relax, let it all go. And one more time, squeeze those glutes, tight, tight, tight. Take a breath, and then exhale and relax, soften. And then we'll start to just shimmy those hips side to side. If it's comfortable to keep your knees out, keep them out. If it's not, you can bring the soles of your feet back to the earth. Just a little movement side to side. And then eventually we'll all place the soles of the feet on the earth. Go ahead and lift your hips up. Remove the ball from your right side. Leave the ball under your left glute. I'm going to start with the left side today. So it's right in the middle of your glute. You're going to let the left knee fall out to the left and then bring it back up. The left knee falls out and bring it back up. If you felt like you needed more than that, you could let both knees fall to the left. That puts a little bit more pressure on, and then back to center. Both knees and center. So make a good choice for you. And of course, checking in, making sure that that's the right amount of pressure. So you'll know if it's the right amount. If you feel something, it's doing something, it's interesting. But it's in no way a fight or flight situation, in no way an emergency, in no way a situation where you're holding your breath or guarding. And then go ahead and move the ball to the outer left glute, so slide it to the left. And start with just one knee again, just one knee out and in and out and in. And if you needed more, again, you could see what it feels like to drop both knees to the left and then center. And to the left and then center. And pausing at center, lift up, place the ball back in the center of your glute. And then we're going to shimmy side to side again. Option to cross left ankle over right thigh. And you can continually move side to side, or perhaps you pause. So I'm kind of shifting my hips to the right. The knees are falling a bit to the left. Pause. Maybe you feel what you need to feel there, and then move again. And then maybe you pause for a breath, or you can continually move. If your ankle is crossed, go ahead and uncross it. You're going to slide the ball to the top of your glute, right underneath your hip bone. And you'll start to shimmy side to side again here. And then just notice how that feels. You do have the option to cross ankle over thigh again if you'd like. Good. And then go ahead and uncross that ankle if it's crossed. We're going to take it to the left side now and put a little bit more pressure on the outer upper glute. So I'm on the left forearm here, and we're going to start again with the left knee falling out and in. This can be a lot, so you need to decide how far on your left side you're going to be. The farther on your left you are, the more you're going to feel. The more you're kind of shifted over to the right, the less you'll likely feel. If you're not feeling anything, move the ball around until you do feel something. And you can keep doing this, or you have one more option. You could start to bicycle out this left leg. If you're leaning to the left and doing a kind of bicycling motion, or you could even just do like a marching motion with the knee going way up high. Could bicycle backwards. Good. All right. Go ahead and come back onto your back. You can set that ball off to the side. The left ankle crosses over right thigh again, and we'll just shimmy the knees to the right and to the left, a little rock to the right and to the left. And then pausing at center. So as best you can, reaching through and starting to pull the thighs towards you, figure four. So I'm reaching through my legs and pulling. If you need a little assistance, you could use a strap either behind your thigh or even hooking your foot. What you want to feel is a stretch in the area that you were rolling previously. You can stay still or you can rock a little side to side, whatever seems to serve you best. Right, and go ahead and release that. And then we're going to switch sides. So I'll flip around so you can see the ball is going to go right underneath your right glute. So right in the center of the glute first, and the knee falls out and in and out and in. One or both knees. Go ahead and continue. And keep your feet wide-ish, maybe even as wide as your mat if you're rocking both knees particularly. Good. And then go ahead and move the ball out to the right side, a little bit farther out to the right. So it's hitting more of the outer upper glute. One or both knees can fall to the right. I'll tell you a little bit about your bladder meridian line. So the meridian lines are energetic lines that run through the body, and they just so happen to run very much through the same lines as your fascial lines. So energy and your physical lines are actually really quite similar. So the bladder meridian line is considered the guardian of peace. So when our bladder meridian line is in balance, we feel calm and peaceful and hopeful, and we look forward to the future. Go ahead and slide that ball back to the middle of your glute. Shimmy the hip side to side. Option to cross the right ankle over the left thigh. So when we have imbalance or stuck energy in our bladder meridian line, or the fascia that runs along the line that is the same as the bladder meridian line, we can end up with headache, back pain, urinary problems, including excessive urination, incontinence, pain in the eyes, pain in the lower legs, and you will tend to get a lot of colds. All right, so uncross the ankle if it's crossed, move the ball to the upper glute, so right below your hip bone, and start to shimmy side to side again. Option to cross the ankle or not, it's your choice. So what I'm saying is if this meridian line is out of balance or you have stuck chi, stuck energy, you're more likely to have any one of those physical ailments that I mentioned. All right. So we'll go ahead and start to move more onto the side. So we've got the ball on the outer right upper glute, on the right forearm, and then the more you're on your right side, the more intense it will be. The more you're kind of leaned away from it, the less intense. So just make a good choice. The right knee goes out and in, or down and up, down and up. Now, what I didn't mention last time is if this was just way, way, way too much, you could use your double ball, and that's going to distribute it a little bit more. It won't be quite as intense. The other option is, of course, you could take it to the wall and do more of a movement like this in that area. So don't be afraid to get up or change your tool if you're finding this to be too intense. And of course, the other option is to move the ball to a slightly different location. So up or down, left or right. Remember, you have that option to bicycle out that leg a little bit, or maybe like a marching movement with that leg. Check your breath. Are you breathing? Number one. How deeply are you breathing? Number two. All right, go ahead and start to make your way back onto your back. Put the ball off to the side. Right ankle crosses over left thigh, and a little rock side to side here. And then we'll pause at center and take the figure four stretch. So if you're able to catch your left hamstring or even shin, great. If that's not easily accessible to you, don't feel ashamed. Just go ahead and grab your strap. Everybody's different. It doesn't matter what it looks like. What it matters is what you feel. So what we want to feel is the right glute and hip area mostly. You might feel some other things too, but mostly right hip and glute area. If that's not what you're feeling, something needs to change. So if all you're feeling is a struggle because you can't reach that hamstring, then use a strap. Don't be afraid to use a strap. You can stay still or you could move on this one. All right. And we'll come out of that. And go ahead and set your strap off to the side if you're using it, or roll over onto one side to transition up. So we're going to be using, again, your 2 balls. And this is one that if your knees are sensitive, you might need a little assist from some towels or maybe another yoga mat, or I might just show you something completely different that may work better. So what we're going to be doing is placing your balls right at the knee joint between the hamstring and the calf. And then you'll start to work your way into some pressure onto the ball. So you'll feel hamstring and calf both. Okay, if this does not work for you at all, but you want to try to get into the calf a little bit, just even some small towels at the joint of the knee to give you a little cushion there. And then you'll start, of course, a little lower with the balls, which will all go down lower. That's one option. If none of that is working for your knees, I recommend one at a time. You go ahead and just release the back of your, oh, here's my block, the back of your calf, maybe with 1 or 2 balls on a block. So don't be afraid to do that. But if you've got the balls between your hamstring and your calf, you can start to just gently move side to side. It can be nice to put blocks in front of your hands here too for some support. That can be nice. Just a little side to side movement here. And just like I mentioned earlier, if this is something it's okay, your knees are fine, but too intense, using your double ball inside the tote, maybe just one side at a time then. So that's going to distribute the pressure. It's going to be less intense. So there's ways to make it less intense. So don't feel like you have to make it something that's going to create anxiety or pain. So we're doing double duty on this one, hamstring and glute at the same time, or hamstring and calf, excuse me, at the same time. If you are doing the double ball, you'll go ahead and eventually switch sides. For those of us meaning the double ball in the tote. For those of us doing 1 ball on each, go ahead and move them down a little bit. So maybe you're more towards the middle of the calf now and the middle of the hamstring. You might be able to sit up a little bit more now. And if you're releasing with 1 or 2 balls on the block, and you'll switch sides if you haven't already. More than one way to do this. And don't worry, we will be also stretching those hamstrings dynamically. So if you are not doing this particular one, we will get into those hamstrings. So hopefully you're feeling some hamstring and some calf if you're doing this version. And if you're able to move it down a little bit more, great. It'll start to get a little too skinny at some point and the ball will just slide out. So find the place where that's not going to happen, or you could even put your hands back there and hold them so they don't fall out. And maybe you put your hands in that right there so you don't lose them if you want to get lower towards your Achilles tendon area and the lower part of your calf, your soleus. Good. Check your breath. All right, we'll start to make our way off of those. And we're going to come back onto our back. Have your strap nearby. set it to your side. You're going to go ahead and take a hold of the left hamstring, pull it close to your body. Your right leg, you have two options. You can either let it extend out or you can stay bent, whichever feels better for you on your back. And then your left leg, it goes from whatever amount you can to straight and then bend. So it does not mean the leg is actually going to ever go completely straight. It's more important you keep your thigh close to your body. So keep it as close as you can, straighten and bend, straighten and bend. Now, if you want to layer onto this, what you can do is as you extend the leg towards straight, point the toe, so ankle point, and then flex the toes towards your shin at the top and then bend. And then point and extend, flex and bend. Point, extend, flex and bend. Point, extend, flex and bend. A couple more times. Point, extend, flex and bend. Point, extend, flex, and bend. The next time you find yourself reaching up now, so the leg is pretty straight, go ahead and hook your foot with your strap. And then you'll keep a little tiny bit of bend in this left knee, but then see how close you can pull it towards you. And then start to point and flex your ankle. Point and flex. Point and flex. Relax your shoulders. So careful you're not scrunching up in your shoulders to hold this strap. A couple more times. All right, good. I'm going to put that left foot down. Take a hold of the back of your right leg. Pull it as close as you can to your body, and then you decide if you want your left leg out straight or bent. Extend and bend your right leg. Extend and bend. Good. And then you can layer on that point and flex. So as you extend up, the ankle is extended, point the toes away. At the top, flex the toes towards your shin, and then bend. Point, extend, flex, and bend. Point, extend, flex, and bend. Point, and bend. Keep going. Point, extend, flex. One more time like that. Point, extend, flex, and bend. And then you'll extend back up, catch your foot with your strap. So tiny bend in the right knee still, and then point and flex the ankle. Point and flex. Point and flex. And a couple more times. And we rest. Good. All right, so we'll set that off to the side. We're going to roll over to your side to make your way onto hands and knees. So we're going to move through some cat-cows here. So pause when you come into your rounded cat posture for a breath or two, and then really press into the hands so you can super round out that upper back. And then we move to the opposite. So lift and lengthen and roll those shoulders back. Think about lengthening through the collarbones. And then we come back to the rounded spine position. So we're still working into that bladder meridian line. It runs through the whole back side of the body. Lift and lengthen. And then we round again. And one more time, lift and lengthen. and we round. And then exactly the same thing, but on your forearms. So we'll round the spine and then shift forward a little bit. So you really round out through that upper back. And then when you drop the ribs, lengthen through the collarbones and then switch back to your rounded spine. So really think about rounding that upper back, maybe even leaning a little forward and then extend, drop the ribs. 2 more times, extend and lift and lengthen. Extend that spine up towards the ceiling. Flexion, but I'm saying extend up. And then lift and lengthen. Good. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take your 2 balls inside there or outside of their tote again. We're going to be placing one on each upper trapezius. So you might want to block nearby just in case you need a little more. So first thing you're going to do is place those balls maybe on the ground and then lay back, and you might need to adjust them, or maybe you lay down and then place them, you decide. So they're going on the upper trapezius. So that's the very top of your back, not on your shoulders, not on your neck, in between those two. So once you have them placed, you'll start to move your arms around. So you can do like a snow angel, like a shoulder press. You could take your arms across your body and then reach out. And while you're doing this, just check in. Is it enough? If it's not, then you can slide a block underneath your tailbone on the middle setting or the lowest setting you decide. I wouldn't go on the highest setting. And then you can try moving around again. The arms can move in any fashion that seems like it's working for you, or maybe you find a place where you're like, ooh, I'm going to stay right there. I'm going to just stay there and breathe. You can move or you can be still. It's your choice. And while you're doing all of that, I'll tell you a little bit more about that bladder meridian line, if I can find my notes. All right. So I mentioned the physical ailments that can show up. I mentioned headache, back problems, urinary problems, eye issues, lower leg pain, and lots of colds too. So when you're out of balance in this meridian line, you can also have emotional things that show up, like feeling really inflexible, and that means emotionally, but it could be physically too. Very fearful, resisting change, and just generally a negative attitude. So it works both ways with the energy. So if you tend to be a negative person, you can cause stuck energy. And then the stuck energy can actually cause you to have these emotional states of being inflexible, fearful, resisting change. So it does work both ways. But the good news is you can shift all that by doing this kind of work. So if you have the block underneath you, maybe you remove it and start to move your body just side to side. So I'm holding the back of my head, I'm lifting my hips, and I'm shifting side to side. Now that can be a lot, so just check in. If that's too much, maybe you leave your hips down and just dip side to side, or maybe you leave your head down and just kind of move your hips around. So just check in, just find something that works for you. You have about 10 more breaths with the balls where they are. This can be a pretty intense area, so really, really check in and make sure you're not overdoing it. Make sure you're still breathing deeply. And And just a couple more big breaths. And when you finished with those breaths, take the balls out, roll to the side. We're going to come into another release. So the trapezius will be stretching, but we're going to multitask and do a release for the feet as well. So for some of you, you might need a little extra cushion between your hips and your heels. So you'll just have to decide based on your knees how this feels. And if it doesn't work for you at all, you just skip the lower body portion of this. So what we're going to be doing is crossing the feet. So one foot on top of the other. For some of you, your knees are not going to like this when you start to move back. Or for some of you, it's just your quadriceps. So you're not feeling your feet at all. What we want to feel is the tops of the feet stretching. And then because it's foot on foot, you'll also feel that release, like almost like a myofascial release. The bony part of my right foot, for me, is pressing on the arch of the left foot. I'm getting some myofascial release. So maybe you have some cushion, maybe you don't. If the knees don't like this at all, don't worry, just don't do this part. You could even just stand up if it makes more sense for you. So what we're going to be doing here, two options. You can clasp your hands back behind you, or just simply reach your arms down to your sides, externally rotating, opening the chest and shoulders. Drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. So ear to shoulder, and then you'll start to just nod your head like yes. So while the ear is towards the right shoulder, nodding your head like yes. You're getting all of this on the side of the neck and into that trapezius, also where you had the balls earlier. You could even pause, maybe pause with it back a little bit. You'll get some of the front of the neck. And then you can pause with it down a little bit. You'll get a little bit more of the back of the neck. Keep breathing. This can be really intense. I understand if it's too much on the feet, just take the feet portion out. All right, so we're going to go ahead and switch our feet. So again, it's foot on foot. It's not over the ankle. It's foot on foot. Maybe you have some support. Could even use a block or a bolster. Either clasped hands or just externally rotate ear to shoulder, left ear to left shoulder. And then you start to move your head like yes. Working all of this on the right side now. Maybe you pause when you're going back and you might feel a little more in the front. Maybe you pause when you bring your chin towards your chest. You might feel a little more in the back. So really honor where you are today. If the feet portion isn't working, don't do it. Keep breathing. And release. All right. So if the feet are working for you, you're just going to uncross them now. And again, maybe you have support behind you and just sitting back on your feet now. If you don't need the support, no worries. So you're getting the stretch on the tops of the feet. Again, if the feet portion isn't working, you don't do it. So from here, we're going to be turning the nose goes towards the right armpit and the right hand comes to the back of the head gently. A little bit of pressure here. Make sure that left shoulder is staying back. So I like to take my hand behind my lower back here to really make sure that I'm not rolling forward. Drop both shoulders down. And then we're going to switch. So nose towards the left armpit, hand to the back of the head. Hand can go behind the back or at least just make sure it's rolled back. Drop both shoulders down. Keep breathing. And gently release. All right. Good. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and place our balls back inside their tote, or if you're like me, you have another set, so you're all set. So where we're going to be placing these balls now is low on the right side. So to the right of your spine, it's straddling your hip bone. So one of them is actually on the upper glute where we had a ball earlier. The other one is above that. So one's on the lower back and one is on the glute. So we'll place that there, and then you'll just start to shimmy your hips side to side. So you can play with flexion and extension of your spine. I'll show you what I mean. So you can play with flexion and extension. So flexion would be tucking. Extension would be like this, where you come into a sway back. You'll notice that does change the experience. So you're going to feel perhaps a little more if you come into extension, more on the ball that's on your glute. If you come into flexion, you're going to probably feel more on the ball that's on your back. If you stay neutral spine, it'll stay pretty evenly distributed. A couple more times, side to side. And then just go ahead and lift up and switch. It'll go on the left side. So one ball is on the upper glute. The other one is above your hip bone on the lower back, moving the hip side to side. Play with that flexion and extension. See what you think, what feels better. They all feel good. Maybe you just spend a little time in extension, some in flexion, and some with your neutral spine. All right, so we're going back to the right side now, but higher. So we'll be placing the balls on the quadratus lumborum now. So that is to the right of your spine. So above that hip bone now, kind of in the middle of your back. So it's going to the right of your spine. And then you can just simply start once again with a little bit of side to side motion. And then again, you'll notice it changes if you're in extension versus flexion. So check in. If it doesn't feel good to come into extension, that can be a lot, then keep your hips lifted up. If you're okay with the extension, you might even let your hips touch the ground, and then you can rock your knees to the right and then come back to center. So that's it's myofascial release, but it's also a bit of a stretch, and that will work for some and not for others. So check it out, see what you think. Maybe it's just one knee, or maybe it's both. You could also just simply drop those knees or knee to the right and take a breath or two. You could play with extending your arms over your head or moving around with your arms. And then one more thing you could try, coming back to that center point, take your left arm out to the left so you're stable. You bring your right knee in towards your chest. So keep your left leg bent. You're nice and supported. Left arm out to the left. And then you could play with this knee. So you could do some circles, drop it out to the right. You could hold on to it or not. I like to hold it. You could simply just bring that knee in towards the chest and hold it. Maybe do a little pull it closer, release, a little pumping kind of action. Or you might come up with something else that really is working for you. So just explore. All right. So we're going to switch sides, slide it to the left, and then just start with some side to side. See what you think. See how it feels in extension. See how it feels in some flexion. If extension feels fine, you could actually come to full extension, let your hips touch the ground. You could simply stay there or maybe drop your knee or knees to the left. You could really expand this by letting your arms come over your head or even shifting it to the left or the right. Kind of play with it. See what you think. What's really working for you? Let's all come back to center. If you've dropped the knees over, take your right arm out to the right. Leave the sole of your right foot on the ground. You can bring your left knee in towards your chest. You can move here, side to side, move the leg around. You can simply kind of pump that knee in and release, pump and release. Or just hold it. Just make sure you're not holding your breath. And then go ahead and that foot come down. If it's up, start to come off of those balls, set them to the side. Step your feet as wide as your mat again. Knees rock side to side. And then rolling over onto one side to transition onto your belly. So coming all the way down onto your belly and then sliding your forearms a little forward of your shoulders. From here, what you want to think about is the stretch in the front of the body. You'll also feel some in the back body. Think of lengthening your spine. So lifting and lengthening, rolling those shoulders down and back, collarbones wide. And then you have the option to move your neck if you'd like, half circle, full circle. If that doesn't feel good, maybe you just let your head drop down, or maybe it just feels better to be still and look forward. So do what works for you. And then pause with the neck motion if you are moving it, and then just shift from the right to the left. Now you can stay right here, or if you feel like you needed more, you could come up onto your hands a little or a lot. So make sure there's nothing sharp happening in the lower back. So you'll feel the stretch shifting to the right and to the left as you move side to side. And the motion can be really tiny or it can be pretty big. And if it's getting pinchy, I would recommend staying on the forearms. And then go ahead and lower all the way down. Bend your knees And start to let your feet windshield wiper back and forth. Good. And then release those legs. So you can stay down here on your belly for this one. And if that doesn't work, I'll show you an option. Option to slide your right arm right underneath you and lay on top of your arm. So you're feeling a nice stretch in the back of your right shoulder. If that is too much for you, if you're just struggling with this, if it's pinching, maybe you come onto all fours and take a more traditional thread the needle. So make a good choice for you and your shoulder. And then you could also change the angle of the arm. If it's pinching on the inside, you might need to slide it up a little bit or down. Just play with it until you feel mostly the back of the right shoulder. Make sure you're not rolling to the right to come out of this. You really want to stay pretty much on your belly. So if that's too much, just come to hands and knees. Keep breathing. Couple more breaths. And you'll carefully switch sides. So check in. This side might be different. Maybe this side you need to come to your hands and knees and then come into a thread the needle. Maybe this side you need more and you lay all the way on your belly. Again, the thread the needle would look like this. Feel the back of the shoulder. Make sure it's not pinching on the inside. Two more big breaths. Very carefully coming out of that. And then we'll use our block and our double ball inside the toes, placing your balls on top of your block. And we'll go ahead and start with the balls in the middle of your neck. So not at the base of your skull, but in the middle of your neck. If it's too much with the block, just go ahead and take the block away. Or you could use a skinnier block or maybe a folded up towel. And then you start to move your head to the right and to the left, side to side. Saying no to negativity, saying no to being resistant to growth, saying no to all the emotions that are not serving us. And then nodding your head, yes. Yes to peace, yes to joy, yes to acceptance, yes to positivity. And then turn your head to the right, like no, and then nod your head yes. And then let's do that on the left. Turn your head to the left like no, and then nod your head yes. All right, now we'll move those balls to the base of your skull and then let your chin kind of tuck down. So what we're going for here is a bit of traction. So you'll feel the pressure right at the base of your skull. And then because you're on this angle, you'll feel just a really gentle tractioning of the neck. And then all you're going to do here is just simply breathe and let gravity do the work for you. And then as you stay here for about 5 more breaths, you're going to decide if this is super, super comfortable for you. Just about 3 more breaths. And if it's comfortable, you can keep the balls just where they are. And let your body melt into those balls while you take your Shavasana. If there's any efforting, if there's any discomfort, after your next breath, just remove them. When we move into Shavasana, what we want is to let everything go. So there should be no discomfort. It should feel incredibly relaxing. So find your Shavasana. Invite in all the positivity and joy and peace into your life. Take a big breath in and then let it all go. Have a wonderful day. Namaste, my friends.